Sit in front of my plate. Are they all set? Supposedly, we're supposed to sit in front of us. Those are the instructions. So here I am.
I can stand.
So I'm going to step in as soon as you
Okay.
my work decides.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to welcome everybody, introduce you, Kevin, and we're going. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. And are we online too? I think so, right? We're Bremen? I hope so. Well, if not, welcome to the Thunderbird School of Global Management at Arizona State University. We are so proud that we are hosting this incredible event. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sanjeev Kagram. I have the great honor and privilege of being the CEO, Director General, and Dean of the Thunderbird School of Global Management. We're also very proud because this past year was ranked #1 in the world in international trade by QS World University Rankings, ahead of 199 other institutions, including my alma mater, Stanford and Harvard, so that was fun for me. And we're part of ASU, as you know, #1 for innovation. But also, the core purpose of this event is very much around sustainability and impact. And as you know, here at ASU, we're #1 in the United States, #2 in the world in impact. We are deeply committed to all things sustainability, circular economy, ESG, global impact. For us at Thunderbird, with our sister school, the College of Global Futures Lab, we host and organize our university-wide SDGs initiative. I was sharing to the panelists and to Kevin, our great hosts here and partners, that the building has a lot of special features, a lot of technology, as you can see, a lot of innovation, a lot of history, because Thunderbird is 77 years old. It was founded by Thunderbird Air Force pilots back in 1946, who came back and had a wonderful view of the world that we need desperately now, given all what's going on, and that is borders frequented by trade and diplomacy seldom need soldiers. Borders frequented by trade and diplomacy seldom need soldiers. And given they were soldiers, it was particularly powerful. And as you all know, given what's going on in the world around us, the geopolitical conflicts and tensions and human suffering, we could use a lot more trade and diplomacy and a lot more sustainability. So we're really proud and honored to be partnering with the organizations such as the one Kevin leads that are advancing this work from the local levels around the world to the international levels. And so I want to introduce Kevin, who is really a great leader, obviously an incredible athlete and sportsman, but really more than that, a leader in terms of community impact, sustainability, ESG, and we're really grateful to you to be here. So let me just say, Kelvin Beachum, from Texas, a Texas native, graduated from Southern Methodist University in 2010 with a BA in economics and a minor in sports management. In 2012, he completed a Master of Liberal Studies in Organizational Dynamics and delivered the commencement address for the Simmons School of Education and Human Development. I think, you know, Professor Boone and I are going to fight over which place you go get your doctorate degree over at the Global Futures Lab or our new doctorate program, which we're very happy about. But we'd like to have you join us in one way or another here at ASU Thunderbird Global Futures. Kevin is a 12-year NFL veteran. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2012, and throughout his career has also played for the Jaguars in Jacksonville, the New York Jets, one of my favorite teams growing up in New Jersey, the Jets and the Giants, and is currently signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Great to have you here in our state. He and his wife, Jessica, who's here somewhere, where did she go? There she is. We're very proud of her as one of our alumni, and thank you, Jessica, for joining us, are both committed to helping young people, especially minority and disadvantaged youth, develop the habits and skills for success. They have a special focus on encouraging minority youth to engage in STEAM-centric STEAM, for those of you who don't know, disciplines and STEAM careers, something that we care deeply about here at ASU and certainly at Thunderbird. We now have 3 STEM certified concentration in our core Master's of Global Management degree. Our Bachelor's of Science International Trade is also STEM certified. And we're passionate, they are also passionate about addressing inequity in education with a specific emphasis on eliminating the digital divide. Kevin was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 2018 list, is an executive committee board member of SMU, and an advisory board member of NFL Players. I was actually having lunch today with someone you might know, Kevin, His name is Sam Garvin. And Sam is one of the co-owners of the Phoenix Suns, a Thunderbird alum. And I was saying that we were putting this on. And as you know, he's part of the MBA's Committee on Sustainability, Inclusion, and Equity. And he said this is exactly what Thunderbird and ASU should do. ASU, we judge ourselves by who we include, not who we exclude. We committed to the communities we serve here in the great city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona, across the United States, around the world. For us at Thunderbird, we have 20 centers of excellence around the world, and we're advancing sustainability everywhere we go. This global headquarters, and I hope you get a chance to walk around, it has not only these traditions and the technology, but also has a pub on the 5th floor. So after you enjoy this incredible event, you should always go and check out that. You'll have a lot of fun. And we were 2 credits short of LEED Platinum. We're still working on that. We need Professor Boo to help us figure that one out. But without further ado, I want to welcome Kevin, thank him and his team for their partnership, for their leadership, and know that, Kevin, we at Thunderbird, at Global Futures, at ASU are your partners, not only for this event, but for days, weeks, years ahead in this quest and vision that we all share together. Welcome. It's great to have you.
And for the first time in history, the 1 second to go. Just get it back in the Oh my God!
And that really is the most exciting racing on water. We are SailGP, Nation versus Nation, a global sailing league. And I'm Fiona Morgan, the only, I think, in the world Chief Purpose Officer. And my job is to make our sport better, better for the planet and better for the sport. And I'm here today really to talk about the Impact League. We are the first sport in the world to create 2 trophies. And this is the most important one. It's our trophy, our podium for the planet, the Impact League, that rewards sustainable actions of our athletes. And there's money and prize money at the end. So why do we have 2 podiums? Why do we care about impact and doing things differently? Business in the world, they care about their CEOs, about how they're reducing their carbon footprint and they're acting more inclusively, and sport should too. It's really important to embed sustainable action in sport because athletes have a huge voice and fans listen. And there's a lot of fans out there, and sport plays a big role in educating people to act differently. So what does being a purpose-driven sport actually mean? Our boats are powered by nature, 3.8 times the wind, but it doesn't stop there. It's about how you operate. It's how you run your events, what your athletes eat. It's about embedding sustainable mindset into every part of your operation. And that is where you race. That's your commercial partners. And that's who you hire. It's thinking differently about what positive impact you can have on the world. At SailGP, the ocean's our racetrack. And we feel like the guardians and responsible to protect it. But actually, every single person in the world needs to protect what we're doing and work together. Because not one person or one sport can change the world. We need to collaborate with partners, with our staff, with everyone, because we all have to solve this together. I'm really gutted not to be there. I actually went to university in Florida, so I feel like I'm there with you and I'd love to really meet you, but I need to reduce my carbon footprint and not travel. So I'm leaving you in the capable and inspiring hands of Kelvin, who is one of our Impact League judges, and he will explain all the great work we're doing and his role helping inspire the next generation to change. But thanks for having me. Enjoy, follow SailGP, have a great time.
Welcome. I hope I'm not too loud. Thank you all for making the time to come. We have a tremendous group of folks that are going to be spending some time with us, just talking about sports sustainability and impact. I've had the pleasure to work with Fiona and SailGP for a number of years on the oceans, being able to talk about sustainability. But today we have some tremendous guests who are going to not only introduce themselves, but just talk a little bit about them before we get into this conversation. We're going to start right here to my right and then work our way down to the left.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kristen Fulmer. I lead sustainability for Oakview Group, which is the world's largest owner-operator of sports and entertainment facilities globally. We own Climate Pledge Arena, which you might hear a little bit more about, manage facilities on behalf of other owners. We have a food and beverage business called OVG Hospitality. We're partnered with the Phoenix Suns here as well there. And we also have several other service businesses, including a service business called Goal, which is really about sustainability, bringing sustainability, making it easier for other owners and operators to integrate sustainability in whatever way makes sense for them. So we're really excited to be here today and to just share more about what sustainability looks like from the built environment perspective, from the buildings that host sports and entertainment. And look forward to the conversation.
You'd think I'd know how to operate a microphone after all these years. My name is Chris Boone. I'm a professor in the School of Sustainability here at Arizona State University, and I was the former dean of the School of Sustainability and the founding dean of something called the College of Global Futures. And just so you know, ASU has a different name for everything, so that's just the way we roll. And the greatest pleasure I have now in life, after having the opportunity and privilege to lead the School of Sustainability, is to work with our students, because quite frankly, that's the greatest impact that we have. So an opportunity to learn with them and then unleash them into the world where they go off and do really extraordinary things is something that I'm very proud of, and it gets me out of bed every day.
I'm Christina Hovestat, Senior Manager of Community Relations at the NFL. My day-to-day is managing a lot of the community initiatives, so Crucial Catch, the league's cancer platform, Cause My Cleats, which we're talking about today, Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, and then also community events leading up to what we call tentpole events like Pro Bowl, Super Bowl, and Draft. From a sustainability perspective, within the last year, I've been tasked with helping with sustainability from a community greening standpoint, but also convening all of the experts in the space, because I am by no means an expert, to be able to make sure that we are pushing sustainability forward at the league level.
Okay. I'm Eric Moses. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of the Fiesta Bowl organization here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Happy to be up here. I think Kelvin invited me because I was the only person whose name wouldn't start with a Chris up here, so I had to break up the whole Chris thing going on here. Seriously though, kudos to Kelvin and to Thunderbird for hosting this conversation. Both organizations that have local and national relevance but are seeking to have global impact. And what you do with wells and the water projects you've done in Africa, what we heard earlier from the dean, what's happening here with this school. I think it's great to be able to host and convene these kinds of conversations here in the Valley that have ramifications everywhere in the world. As someone who's been in the live events business for a very long time, all of us, I think, are looking for a time where we'll have zero waste events, where now I'm 10 months, 11 months into living in the Valley. I understand the importance of water and saving it and conserving it. And so wanting to bring that knowledge and familiarity with those who come to Arizona for large-scale events, whether it's the Fiesta Bowl, our Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Super Bowl, Final Four, all of the other things that we're hosting these days. We want to make certain that people that come here understand the importance of conservation and sustainability in everything we do.
Thank you all. With that being said, I want to jump right over to Christina. Kind of just talk about the My Cause, My Cleats initiative and why that's important to the National Football League.
Yeah, so I told Kelvin earlier in the room, I was like, he definitely planned the perfect timing for this. He promises that he didn't do this on purpose, but My Cause, My Cleats actually officially launched yesterday with a press release, and then today launched with Unboxing Week for our players. And so My Cause, My Cleats is an initiative, we're in our 8th year now, where we give players the platform to shine a light on the causes that they care about most. This initiative started, actually we started creating it around 10 years ago, when at a league level, we were looking for an opportunity to shine a light on the character, the positive character of the players around the league. And at the very same time, players such as Brandon Marshall were coming to the office and saying, I would love to help create a platform to be able to do this. And so it took about 2 years, but with inspiration from the players like Kelvin doing so much off the field, players now are able to partner up with designers for weeks 13 and 14 of the NFL season and create cleats that showcase their causes that matter most to them. I don't know if you want to show your cleats real quick, but he just got his as we walked into this panel.
Christina did just a phenomenal job of teeing that up.
Can you tell us a little about those cleats?
Yeah, so these cleats, I'm not supposed to be getting questions, I'm supposed to be moderating here. I know, but these cleats were made by a local artist. I've been doing work with World Vision for a number of years, had the opportunity to go to Lusaka, Zambia this past year, and be able to donate wells, actually galvanize the community, not only here in Arizona, but across the nation, to be able to raise money for another well. And there are three wells that are there in some of the rural parts of Lusaka. And this year, Cause My Cleats is around access to clean water, which leads us to this conversation around sustainability. And we were talking about this in the back, but how sport has given way to so many different opportunities for conversations to happen. And today, that conversation is around sustainability. So I really want to start with Christina here, but just talk about kind of the sustainability strategy from you all's perspective, just over there with Oakview Group.
Yeah, so I would say just generally to us, sustainability is really just about really simply clean air, clean water for everyone, right? That's basically climate, environmental justice. It's really about people. Because I think a lot of times sustainability is about climate. We think about polar bears far away. It's hard to relate to us. So we try to make sustainability about humans, about people. And at Oakview Group, we make it about people within our building. So that's employees, it's athletes and artists, and it's all of the visitors, all of the fans that come to our buildings. So we really try to do what we can within the building design, right? Make the building design sustainable, efficient, but then we also realize our ability to influence the visitors and everyone who comes through our doors. So we can do activations, campaigns, initiative with corporate partners, so many different things to just engage people and share the message about sustainability. So it's about our physical footprint, which, as you heard about our company, it's physically big, but it's also about the influence that we have and the fact that we are home to so many great athletes and artists as well.
When you think about kind of environmental impact, Eric, would you mind just kind of touching on that as it pertains to, you're using State Farm Stadium. Fiesta Bowl is a flagship program that many people know and respect, but kind of just talk about kind of you all's thoughts around sustainability from a Fiesta Bowl standpoint.
Yeah, kind of as I said earlier, I think the notion of sustainability and its relevance to live events and to the built environment that Kristen was talking about is something that we can use all events to kind of highlight. Having been someone who grew up on the East Coast, water conservation and things of that nature weren't issues that were all that relevant for me growing up. So if we have the opportunity to let people know that these things are important in parts of the country that they like to visit and that they want to come to, I think that helps us to get more people on board and then looking at a climate pledge arena and going, well, that's a really cool idea. Like, why wouldn't we require that the next Olympics or the next World Cup that is going to go into a country and require buildings to be build those buildings in a way that it's adding to the society and to the environment there with sustainability measures as opposed to taking things from it, right? And so I think we use our platform as an opportunity to raise visibility around these issues.
Chris, you've been around this space for a number of years. You've seen it both from academia. I'm not going to talk about the gray hair. You've seen it from academia. You've seen it from a business standpoint. Can you just kind of dive into some of the numbers, how you think about ROI, investment into sustainability from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, because a lot of people think that sustainability is about the burdens we bear and the responsibilities that we need to take on, and that is important. We need to be motivating by those ethical issues. But what's really important in sustainability, and I'd say this happened about 10 or 12 years ago, is that a lot of organizations, including the private sector, began to realize that doing things with a sustainability strategy and framework was actually an innovative way to open up new markets and new opportunities. So our students, for instance, when we first started graduating them, many of them were working in the regulatory space and working with organizations that are having to deal with compliance issues and so forth. But now most of our students are actually in positions within organizations and companies that are more in line with what the CFO is interested in, because it's become an opportunity for not only doing well, but also doing well in a profitable way. So in terms of employment opportunities, because that's one of the things I care about a lot as a professor at a university, we've seen a tenfold increase in sustainability jobs over the last 10 years. There are not enough people globally, not just here in the United States, to fill green and sustainability jobs. We're not educating enough students to be able to take on these opportunities. That's a lost opportunity for the students themselves, but it's also a lost opportunity for us and the planet that we don't have more people working in these spaces.
Can you kind of talk just a little bit about the cost that are associated with people that are transitioning from something that wasn't sustainable to something that is sustainable? Then I kick it right over to you, Kristen, right after that. But kind of talk about the costs that are associated with finding a way to get us to a more sustainable future.
Yeah, so it's another great question, and I think whenever there's change, some people fear change, some people are excited by change. And one of the ways to make change a little less fearful is to start with that business case. So let me tell you a story. So the former chief sustainability officer of Starbucks, when he joined the company, he was really thrilled because Starbucks had already publicly talked about its commitment to sustainability. And so when he started going around and talking to fellow employees about all the great things that they could do, they would say, yeah, I got more important things to do. I've got to make this company money. And then he realized that in order to even enter in those conversations, he had to start with the business case. So he would knock on the door and say, hey, I'm going to save you some money. And then they would look up and say, how are you going to save me some money? And then he would actually go into the sustainability strategy, which a lot of the early work was around resource efficiency. So if you're using fewer resources, you're saving money, right? So starting with that business case was a way to get people to pay attention. And so it's now become, I think, ingrained in mindsets that sustainability doesn't necessarily mean the more expensive way, often at least more innovative ways. It's resource efficiency, it's opening up new markets, and companies are now, as I've just described, adding a lot more employees to their rosters, not because they feel it's just the right thing to do, but it's because it's going to lead to that return on investment that you talked about.
Kristen, right over to you.
Yeah, I would say, not to just talk about the doom and gloom, but the reality is that there continue to be more and more billion-dollar climate-related disasters every year, and that's adjusted for inflation. So we're seeing that it's actually a financial risk if we don't do something about climate. And our industry, the sports and entertainment just generally, plays a role, maybe a small role compared to the whole world, but a role in leading that action, and then a huge role in inspiring others to lead that action. So from a financial perspective, my first argument is that it's hopefully going to save us money in the long term to address these issues now. Secondly, like you said, Chris, I think there's so many opportunities to create business and drive revenue within sports and entertainment related to sustainability. We talked about Climate Pledge Arena. That building could have been called Amazon Arena. That's the naming rights holder. But they chose to name it after their sustainability initiative, the Climate Pledge. So that's the first time, really, that a building's been named after a sustainability initiative, and there's so much power even in that name, even in people saying that name over and over again. And that showed our business leadership that sustainability can be good business. And now I often talk to leaders in different venues or organizations that I think are embarrassed to say that they want sustainability to make them money. And I think the reality is that it should, and they should be finding ways to partner with corporate brands to find new ways to drive revenue related to sustainability, because it's what the new job market's looking for, it's what compliance regulation is pushing for, and it's what the world is really going to need. So it's a little bit of future proofing. So I think it's a revenue driver and a cost saver.
When you start to think about the conversation of how sport has always been a catalyst for these types of conversations, Eric, can you kind of just talk about the history of sport and how some of these hard issues in society have been where sports comes into play to have this conversation, whether you want to go back into the late 70s or 80s where racism was a conversation, or whether you want to talk about some of the race relation issues that happened in the 2014 to 2018. You talk about the pandemic. Sports had always been something that people somewhat lean on during these times. So can you just kind of talk about just that history of sport, and then we're going to tie that into kind of sustainability and just touch a little bit on just the NFL's conversations around kind of that topic. But go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I think, and I say to people often that I work in sports because we have the unique opportunity to have an outsized impact on the lives of people who follow what we do. Pushing issues like sustainability to the forefront and to the public consciousness is something that our industry is able to do in a way that I think very few are able to do. If you see Bono and U2 taking up a cause and making that central to a tour that they're doing, more people are following that and talking about that issue than they would be if, say, some leader of the NASDAQ or some other really important organization were talking about it. If Kelvin is wearing those cleats about World Vision, people are going to be looking up and trying to figure out what World Vision is because their favorite football player was wearing them on Sunday, and millions of people got to see that, and that exposure happened. So I think what we end up doing to leverage the power of sport and the bridges that sport builds between people, communities, and sometimes even countries is really a responsibility that we all kind of share. And whether that was fighting for race relations with the Olympics in '68 in Mexico with Tommy Smith and John Carlos, whether that's what we've seen with women's sports recently and the advent of kind of NIL and how that is changing things for collegiate women's sports, all the money now from a sponsorship standpoint that is pouring into the support of women's sports, late albeit, but better late than never. Sport and entertainment have a way of focusing the public on issues that we collectively think are more important now. And I think, like I said, it's our responsibility to continue to use those platforms and that podium in order to advance conversations like this.
Christina, can you just continue to kind of drive that point of how the NFL talks about sport and impact, and how you all use the NFL's platform to really push not only what the NFL wants, but also what the players want to see from a better world that we all want to be able to live in one day?
Definitely. So at the NFL and the culture of the NFL with all of our employees, it always comes back to strengthening our communities that we play in, because we are only as strong as those communities that we play in. And that includes anything that's important to them. It's our responsibility, our social responsibility, to be able to reach these people in the communities where they are and to tackle these subjects and topics like sustainability that are important to them. For instance, we of course want to reduce our negative environmental footprint and our negative environmental impact, but when you think of community and sustainability, and especially we have a ton of players like yourself that are passionate about it, we're also thinking of how many of our communities that we play in don't have enough trees to have play space or shade for kids to go outside and play and to get moving. That's a real issue that we've heard through our NFL Play 60 initiative that we need. And so now that we're bringing sustainability to the forefront and having players that are equally as passionate about it put on their cleats on display what they're passionate about, it just helps us to drive that mission forward, which is ultimately coming back to what can we do to strengthen our communities and these fans and these players and everyone that pours so much into our league. I mean, think about it. as the NFL, we would not survive without our fans or without our communities. We literally only survive and thrive because you all and everyone outside at the Cardinals are pouring back into us. So that's kind of where we are. It just always comes back to strengthening our communities and strengthening our players and giving them a platform to be able to talk about the causes that they're passionate about. And to your point, sports make and are such a great catalyst because it makes these conversations that can be intimidating to some very approachable. You know, you might have went home for Thanksgiving and had an awkward family dinner, but maybe someone just said, so how about those Cardinals? And then the whole room shifts. It's the same thing when it comes to sustainability. Listen, I had to know my audience, okay? I was thinking that I might be on the right track. But
No, it'd be a little different if we had some wins, but we got to keep it real. We got to keep it real. Chris, could you kind of just touch on where you think partnerships like this are going? You have, Eric from Fiesta Bowl, you have the NFL, you have Oakview, you have a team in the Cardinals, you have ASU and Thunderbird. Where do you see these type of partnerships going, and is there like actionable steps that we can take, even from just today and this conversation and the gathering that we have today?
Well, I'm going to steal your expression of keeping it real, because that's what these partnerships do. Because when we work with outside organizations, we get a sense of what their priorities are and see if we can find those mission matches that allow us both to mutually move forward in the goals that we have. So I'm going to talk again about my students, because that's what I care most about. One of the best things that I can do to serve my students is to give them what I call experiential learning opportunities. And that's engaging with organizations outside the university who are often struggling with really complex issues. So we had one project focusing on homelessness. Homelessness is an endemic problem in the United States, and it's part of sustainability. Sustainability, to Christina's point, is not just about the environment, which people often confuse it as just being about that. Ultimately, it's about improving human well-being in fair and just ways for present and future generations while safeguarding Earth's life-supporting systems. That's what it's about. And so if we take that as the beginning point for what we're trying to achieve, then issues like homelessness, which is where you often find where people become hopeless, what are the complex systems that can help explain why these things happen in the first place, and what are the systematic solutions that we can put in place so that we can ultimately eliminate homelessness. This is as much a part of sustainability as clean water and clean air and everything else. So giving, again, our students a chance to keep it real and face these issues and all of their complexity, and then try to work through solutions that are not just immediate, but long-term, that are systems level, that allow for systems level change. Those partnerships, without them, we wouldn't get the opportunity to be able to do that. So we welcome them.
And if I could just add quickly, I mean, this is new for our industry, and there isn't a clear path for jobs for the future, for solutions. And so I think these types of collaborations are just us getting in a room together and thinking about ways that we can build this. Chances are opportunities just come up, and organically people will slide into them and be able to lead these new opportunities that we haven't seen before, because we really haven't.
Yeah. With that being said, we have Mullet Arena that's here on ASU's campus that Oakview group was a part of. We talked about Climate Pledge Arena briefly. We've also talked about kind of what I've done around access to clean water. But can you kind of take us a little deeper into kind of everything not everything, but a lot of what Climate Pledge Arena does? And then we're going to open it up for some Q&A. But kind of just dive a little deeper into Climate Pledge, what you all are doing, what you all have done around water, how you've all been able to recycle water. I don't know if you've ever been to that stadium, but if you ever get a chance to get to Seattle, getting to Climate Pledge Arena, it's mind-blowing what they've been able to accomplish there. But can you kind of just take us into that journey a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I also recommend it because there's great acoustics for shows and also a good hockey team there. But yes, from a sustainability perspective, very proud of it. So first, when we go to develop a new facility or even just begin to manage one, we look at what makes sense for the community, what people are personally passionate about, and what's relevant to the climate. So what we did in Seattle is very different than what we would do here, or what we did do at Mullet Arena here in Tempe, and what we would do at UBS Arena in New York. The buildings are designed differently, the people who come in it are different, and the climate solutions are different. So in Seattle, and again, partnership with Amazon, we all know, don't even have to have gone to Seattle to know that they get a lot of rain. So it would have been silly of us not to just capture the resources that were rich for us there, which include rain. And because we had a hockey team and need a lot of ice, it made perfect sense to capture the rainfall, hold it in a cistern, and actually freeze it for the ice. So it's the first rain water ice hockey system in the NHL. And we get questions all the time about, well, I want to do that at my arena, I want to do that at my arena. The problem is it doesn't rain in all those places as much as it does there. So we were able to maximize that because it made sense for that local climate. Also at Climate Pledge, they're one of the first to be 100% electric, no natural gas in the building. It is possible to cook a good hot dog on electric, not natural gas, all powered by renewable energy, so way less carbon emissions, basically zero, and they actually just received a certification to validate that. And they continue to do more and more things because they've set this goal, they've set these leadership standards, and again, partners and organizations just keep coming to them now with new ideas saying, well, we want to do this and let's try that. And so they're just kind of a test bed now for that. But if we were, looking at a local climate like here in Phoenix, we wouldn't recommend rainwater capture, and we'd probably focus on water conservation. Even things like, because we have a food and beverage business, even things like thinking about what menu options would have ingredients that were created with less water. So what ingredients are really water intense to create, maybe like red meat, and what ingredients that we can put into a lot of our recipes that aren't as water intense. And so we can be really mindful about what's happening within our building, and then about the messaging as well, so people understand the reasons why we've chosen those things, and then maybe they can take some of those home. So, yeah.
Great job. So open it up for questions. I have a mic right behind me, or right next to me. So we'll use this mic to be able to allow the audience to ask a couple questions. Okay.
There might be people online.
Oh, they want to hear you online. You good? There you go.
Awesome. My name is Kelvin. First of all, thank you all for being here. And I'm a faculty member in WP Carey focusing on marketing and sports business. And a lot of my work focuses on consumer responses to these sorts of issues. And one of the things that we see in study after study is that consumers just don't know. Consumers need to be better educated. So I want to hear from you all what you all think the best forms of educating consumers are as far as the great things that are being done. Great things that are being done in the sports industry for sustainability and other social issues.
You looked at me.
Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, like at Climate Pledge Arena, we don't really give the visitors in our building an opportunity to choose an unsustainable option. And so, we talked about zero waste as an example. If we're relying on the visitors to put the compost in the compost bin and the recycling in the recycling bin, it's going to be really hard to do that. As much education as we want to focus on. So if we just eliminate the landfill option, right, and don't have anything that goes to landfill, it makes their choices a little bit easier. Same thing, again, like I mentioned, the recipe options. So if we just offer sustainable choices as the only choice, then it makes it easier. But of course, since I mentioned influence, we also want to be a part of that education. I've seen really clever things, not in our buildings, just across sports. The Colorado Rockies do a really interesting activation between innings where they just do like a simple what conserves energy type of quiz, and you have a player answer the questions, and then you have a fan try to beat them. But it's an activation with a corporate partner, but it's just simple education that, again, has a brand influence, but a really simple education factor. So I think a lot of those things are really effective because people are coming to our buildings to have fun, to be entertained. And so we try to do that passively and as authentically as possible.
I'll give a bit of context for this. So I grew up a die-hard Dallas Cowboys fan, and yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. So they obviously, football had a great influence on me growing up, and my question is to Kevin and Christina. I saw Jason Witten win the Walter Payton Man of the Year. That inspired me as a kid. Dak won it last year. But I also saw J.J. Watt win it. Since I'm in Arizona, I'm forced to say this, Larry Fitzgerald. But my question is, like, when you have somebody playing at such a high level, or like, you know, getting all that resources and that fame, money, what do you think is it that keeps players like you or players like them just going back home and knowing that they have a higher duty to perform to, not only on the field but off the field, and for them to do it consistently even after they retire, or for them to inspire their teammates as well to do the same?
I'm a moderator, so Christina's going to take this.
I was
one
like,
over.
we're looking at like the philanthropist of the league here. I mean, no, but actually prior to working at the NFL, I ran Rashad Jennings Foundation and all of his off-field stuff. And one thing that he always told me was that he never forgot where he came from. He had a reading comprehension deficit, and he was personally passionate about literacy and making sure that young black men didn't grow up with a reading comprehension deficit also. But another thing that always stood out that he told me was that a lot of players want to give back, they just don't know how to start. And so at the league level and at the team level and community relations departments, we try to meet the player where they are and to ask them, what is your story? What happened to you to make you so passionate about this cause? And now, how can we equip you with the resources to give back in this? But I'm going to challenge you. Once we equip you and we teach you how to do this, go to your peers and do this as well. But I would say honestly, and I'm just going to brag on Kelvin, I have never seen someone's name come across my email inbox as much as people talking about how amazing this man is off the field. So I would love for you to, sorry to put you on the spot again, but I just see so many people internally, Commissioner Anna Isaacson, our SVP of Social Responsibility, talk about whenever there's an opportunity to give back, Kelvin's there in whatever space. Right now we're in my Cause My Cleats, and week 15 is Inspire Change, and I know he's doing something there. So would love to hear your viewpoint on this as well.
Yeah, I think it's the ability to, for one, be able to serve. Like, if you have that ability, you got to use it. I come from a very socioeconomic, background that was not like what I have right now. So my parents grew up on pretty much $19,000, and in a household where you have 4 kids, I'm the biggest. You can start to do the math about all the money you got to have to feed, people like myself. Like, that kind of, it starts to run out. So I started really focusing on 2 areas. One was ending hunger both domestically and worldwide. And as I started to think about things domestically and globally, I started realizing water was a huge thing. And it took me to these areas. And then it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, which again goes back to some of the very things that we're talking about from a sustainability standpoint. And for me, in many players, once you find out what that passion area is, you dive deep and you stay in that lane. You talked about J.J. Watt. There was a hurricane that happened there in Houston during that time. He stayed deep and he stayed in that lane. Larry Fitzgerald has done stuff there in Minneapolis, and he's done stuff here in Arizona. He knew what his calling was, and he stayed there deep. You talked about Rashad. He knew what his calling was. And a lot of times, some of these issues are things that we came from. And then once we're exposed to life that football affords us, you see other issues. And I'm the type of guy, I'm not going to just keep talking about the problem. We're talking about sustainability. Let's find a solution about it. That's what this conversation is about. And there are players all across the National Football League, in my locker room, in the Cardinals locker room, in the locker rooms that I was in Jacksonville, in New York, and Pittsburgh, that do an amazing job. So Walter Payton Man of the Year is a phenomenal award, but there's so many guys across the National Football League that do amazing work, and that work is centered around, one, what hits their heart, and once it hits their heart, how deep can they go? And most times it's deep here domestically, and for some it takes them all over the world, which the game of football is literally going all over the world. The conversation around sport is all over the world. Sustainability is touching everybody across this planet. And I'm just blessed to be a part of it. So really good question.
Hello guys, thank you so much for the job that you guys are doing based on sustainability as well. So I really like what Chris said about that Sustainability is not just about the climate. Of course, the climate is very important, but also, let's say in the NFL, I grew up playing, well, specifically tennis, but I've seen that poverty is a very huge issue as well that needs to be addressed, as homeless as well. So there is a lot of kids that, as an example, they will love to play football. But of course, as I think Kelvin know, that is very hard to get involved in this sport, in any sport, because it's very costly as well. And if your family doesn't have the resources to put in them, then it's pretty much highly impossible for you to keep practicing this sport. So I was wondering, like, if the NFL or have any incentive about this issue, or if there are any partnerships or any organizations that might be able to cover this, to give kids the opportunity to grow up playing sports. So I was wondering if there is anything going on this.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that we start with our players. So our players, in calculating all 1,300 or so of players that signed up for My Cause, My Cleats this year, one of the main themes was youth and youth sports. So we saw that a lot of our players are passionate about teaching the next generation the game of football, which of course we love and are passionate about as well. And so through our NFL Foundation, we have player camp grants. So a player can apply to get money to be able to host their own football camps, and they usually do this in the summer and the off season. But then if a player also has their own foundation and they're equally as passionate about youth in general, they can also apply for more funds to be able to continue to create programs or partner with other nonprofits that they're passionate about, so that they can also learn that sport or get active. We also have a youth health and wellness initiative called NFL Play 60. And so in all of our 32 markets, we're partnering with teams to look for the schools, maybe in under-resourced communities, that could use more of those camps in the communities to learn the game of football. So I love that you're passionate about having kids learn it. And I know just by looking at the stats of My Cause, My Cleats, a lot of the players this year are too.
So this will be the last question, and then I'm going to have parting words with our panelists.
Hello. Hi, my question is going to be directed towards Kristen. So I know there's a lot of big cities that can profit from sustainability as far as like water or rainfall, like you talked about. Is there anything that you guys are doing at Oakview to reach, let's say like Navajo tribes here in Arizona, or places where there's not as many resources or opportunities for them to benefit from that?
Yeah, absolutely, and it totally depends on where we are. So we try to look locally and find the right partners and community groups, and not necessarily reinvent something or create a new community group or nonprofit, but look at what makes sense for that community, what is actually needed, and try to fill those gaps. At Mullet Arena, they do a lot of initiatives with Arizona State because the hockey team play there. But I might mention Climate Pledge Arena, sorry to belabor it, but they're a really good example. So they're in Washington State, and even locally in Seattle, they created One Roof Foundation, which the roof is a theme of the building, so it was historically preserved. And the point of One Roof Foundation is about climate justice specifically, so it addresses that topic, and it reaches the indigenous tribes of the region, as well as some of the local community who are more adversely impacted by climate injustice. And it's fundraising, it's education, and it's actual community impact there on the ground. So we're trying to replicate that more and more, but we also don't want to create a foundation if there are those existing in the region.
Gotcha. Well, Eric, can you kick us off with parting words?
Yeah, happy to be here and be part of this discussion as someone who is not all that well versed in sustainability, but understands both as a human being, but also somebody who has had the privilege of being involved in sports and entertainment for as long as I have been, that we do have a power to influence and to impact people like you all to start talking about these issues, sharing what you've learned, and hopefully inspiring other people to get involved in helping out with things like sustainability. So happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation and for what you're doing with World Vision and others. Thank you, obviously, to Thunderbird for what they're doing to host this kind of conversation, and for what you all in the audience, I'm sure, are doing in your own walks of life. So thank you.
Thank you again for having me and for hosting this. I would say from a league level, we're just excited. Like, that's the best way to put it. We're excited because we've really been digging deep into sustainability this last year. Our clubs, there's about probably 5 or 6 clubs that have been in this space and doing really good work in this space for a long time. But as a league, we are excited to serve as more of a unifier of all things sustainability league-wide and to come up with some achievable yet challenge goals for our teams to be able to succeed in the next year or two when it comes to sustainability. So I'm just excited for you guys to see what will happen, and hopefully you can get involved at some point.
Yeah, thanks again. Let me add my thanks, Kelvin, for joining this conversation. I realize I haven't said a single thing about sports the whole time I've been talking, so let me just say a couple things. One of our earliest graduates went to work for the Green Sports Alliance, which I think you're familiar with, and they're doing some phenomenal work about trying to work across multiple sports, both amateur and professional, and thinking about how to integrate sustainability. We also worked with the Final Four years ago as a class project to make it the most sustainable Final Four project. And that included some really interesting things. In addition to zero waste diversion, they actually helped to restore part of the Verde River in order to offset some of the water issues associated with running that tournament. And then finally, I'll just say that the extraordinary power of sports, I mean, if you look at the diversity of people who participate in sports, Republican, Democrat, Independent, all races and ethnicities, here's an extraordinary opportunity for a powerful force to bring the country together. And if you can use that as an opportunity to forward sustainability principles, you know, we all win. Learning happens not just in the classroom. Learning can happen in a stadium. Just think about all of those people, if you have them just for a moment, and if you can change the minds even slightly of 80,000 people, just in that stadium, you can affect real change. So, great work you're doing.
I hate the mic drop moment. I would just say, from our perspective, really, if you are passionate or interested in the topic of sports and sustainability and aren't doing anything or not sure where to start, just think of something you're excited about and reach out to someone, and chances are you can find a way to make it happen. Because again, this is new and very entrepreneurial, and the more hands-on experience you can get, the better. There's lots of great organizations looking for interns and partners and people to work with them. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions on that, but very happy to just bring more people into this world. And then secondly, I mean, I think as a venue owner operator, maybe sometimes we take for granted or just it's a given that athletes and artists come to our building every day, and we think a lot about fan and visitor satisfaction, but not a lot about working with athletes and artists. So I'm really just excited about what Kelvin's doing and about showing up together and finding ways to work more explicitly and directly with athletes and artists who are passionate about this. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that being said, for one, I have to give a huge shout out to Thunderbird. I want y'all to give it up for Thunderbird real quick. Thank you so much, Thunderbird. And then real quick, I want y'all to say thank you to Kaylee. She is an ASU student at the sports management school here at ASU, and she's been super helpful in coordinating everything on the ground and making sure everything went smooth. So I wanted to make sure everybody got to see the brains behind the operation today. So y'all give it up for Kaylee. With that being said, thank you so much for coming out this evening. I really appreciate you making time. I know we had some students that missed class today, so I really appreciate you pulling the trigger for us and sitting in on this discussion. But again, thank you all for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I messed up. Don't thank me too much since I messed up this evening.
Oh, you're fine.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the invitation.